Hello, my name is Dean Contover, and this is the Current Buzz. Thank you for watching again. Again, we have Frank Phillips. He's a political reporter for the Boston Globe, correspondent for the Boston Globe. He's come back again for a second show because we started talking about his experiences in the Boston Globe and the Herald and the Lowell Sun. He worked for the Lowell Sun, enjoyed working in the ethnic valleys and highs and lows in Lowell, and he learned a lot about life. Is that what I could say?
I learned. I was maybe really learned my political journalistic craft in Lowell. If you learn it here, you can do political journalism anywhere.
Yeah, because in the other show you said you went to Boston, and you had no problems understanding.
No problems. I had a leg up on everybody else because I was here for 10 years in Lowell. And you understand the politics here back in the 70s, particularly the ethnic fault lines and all the rivalries that went on, and what the grudges were and why, that 20 years ago some guy got screwed out of a deputy superintendent of schools, and that still ran through the politics and the divisions of the city, and you understood those things.
Right.
You could understand how the state house is run.
Yeah, I mean, even in town hall, when I lived in Boston, it was pretty well connected. I mean, people knew each other in the city. And if you got a ticket in the North End and the woman who was handling tickets lived in the North End, high probability that you wouldn't be found guilty of your. Am I right in that sense?
It was the
old
old
Wild West.
It was the old way of doing things.
Yeah.
Things have gotten a lot more strict than.
So did you know Mayor White? I mean,
I knew him a little. I didn't cover him that much because I was the Lowell Sun most of his tenure. I did have a lunch with him. He was getting a little dementia, but luckily his dementia.
Yeah, that's right. He was
a happy guy, and he was very funny, but he couldn't remember much. And I was sitting with him. Bob Crane, the former state treasurer, got me together, and we were having lunch at the Parker House. And I turned to him. I said, back in 1970, I was a young reporter with the Lowell Sun, and you were running for governor, and I covered some of your rallies. And he turned to me and he said, "Wow, I ran for governor?" I said, "Yeah, you ran for governor." He said, "Did I win?" I said, "No, you didn't win." He said, "Ah, nuts," and he laughed.
Oh, no kidding.
He was a wonderful. And it was sad to see him diminish like that. He was obviously a controversial figure in many ways, but he was also a very good mayor.
In 1972, the Rolling Stones came into town, and there was a commotion in Rhode Island when they landed their plane, and he got in front of the crowd at the Boston Garden and said that they delayed, and they were going to have a police escort from Rhode Island.
Is that right? Is that what happened?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he got up and he said...
did something, I wasn't overseas in the Peace Corps, but in '68, didn't he? James Brown was going to perform, and there was a riot or something, and he brought everybody together.
Like that.
He brought everybody together. No, he had his, he was old school and he was new school. It was an interesting combination.
Right. Let me ask you this question. I mean, let's talk about politics today. I mean, It's happening. We just had midterm elections. It seems like the Congress is Democratic. There's still, I don't know how many elections still up. I think there was
the House is Democratic. You're talking about
the House. I'm sorry. Yeah. 3 unresolved elections right now, 3 for the U.S. Senate, 12 for the House, and 1 Georgia governorship that's still up in the air. Mm-hmm. That's what they're reporting. What do you think of what will happen once the Democrats take over Congress? Will they elect Nancy Pelosi, or is she out?
No, I think Nancy Pelosi will win. It'll be her last term. She won't be again. As much as legislative leaders, Mitch McConnell, Harry Reid, Nancy Pelosi, they always become demonized, and because they're herding cats, and it's a very difficult thing to do, and the opposition party always, makes caricatures of them, cartoonized figures, I should say, and
that's been going on for generations.
Tip O'Neill, Reagan made a lot of fun of Tip O'Neill, but he actually emerged as out of it in a stronger position. But Nancy Pelosi, I think, is unfairly been painted that way, and she's very effective in raising money for Democrats, hugely effective.
Right.
She knows what she's doing as Speaker, and but on the other hand, I think she does have some political liability for the Democrats. So she's got to be careful. And if she's really pulling after a year, pulling the Democrats down and being used as such a target, it might be time to go. She is, getting up there in years, in her late 70s, and it may be a graceful way to leave after she's won the House and done a year, and maybe she should leave.
So you're saying that she will do the 2 years or do a year and then pass it off to somebody else?
I have this is not based on any sources, but speculation. If she really had the party's interest, I would assume that would be a good way to sort of bow out and not be the lightning rod that she is for Republicans in 2020.
Lori Trahan won the 3rd Congressional District, right? She was in your hometown with Pelosi,
in Concord.
Concord, and she said that she hasn't committed to Mrs. Pelosi at all. So, where do you think that's? You think that's
I would assume
strategy?
If she's smart, she'll go with Pelosi. The committee assignments are going to come out. Are people really going to hold it against her? She didn't commit one way or the other, and maybe she was trying to avoid having Rick Green go after her, and the Republicans using it as a ploy, which may not be the most honest way of doing it. Because if she intended to vote for Pelosi, she should have said it. But on the other hand, she may have been honestly conflicted. She wants to see what the alternatives are.
Interesting. Yeah, we have the Senate race, which Elizabeth Warren won by 1,602,000, and Governor Baker Polito won by 1,746,000. What do you take out of the Republican being governor and the legislature being Democrat in this state?
We have had that tradition for some time. I remember my early years with Frank Sargent. People like to have a Republican governor to put the brakes on the Democrats. Although Sargent was more liberal than most Democrats. But I think that was what Bill Weld, Bill Weld won with 71% of the votes over Mark Roosevelt, who had that name Roosevelt behind him.
And he was related to the Roosevelts.
He was great-grandson to Teddy Roosevelt, and had been a very effective legislator. Mm-hmm. He was a very key figure in the huge educational reform bill of the early 90s.
He's still around.
He's out in New Mexico.
Oh, is he? Oh, okay.
In Santa Fe. He's president of St. John University there.
Oh, interesting.
St. John College.
Oh, okay.
And Bill Weld won with 71% of the vote, and Ted Kennedy had the biggest fight of his life against Mitt Romney. He won with 60% of the vote. So it's kind of a similar sort of situation where we in Massachusetts split our ticket. We like to put Democrats down in Congress in more recent years, in the last 30 or 40 years, and we put Republicans, a lot of Republicans, into the governor's seat.
Right.
We go back and forth. We had a string of governors for 16 years, and then Deval Patrick came along, and then we went back to governor. And now we've reelected that governor with 67% of the vote.
Right.
He's very popular. He played it. He's not partisan. He works with the Democrats, and people like that. The people he's a conservative, but he's not the type that wants to cut back programs as much as he wants to make programs work and be effective.
Do you think he's presidential timber?
I don't think he has an interest in it, and I don't think he would be that good out on he's not a great, doesn't raise a great roar in the crowd when he speaks. He's a very decent guy, and I think he really has no interest. I would think he would maybe run against Markey, and I know from those around him and from him himself, he really doesn't see himself going to Washington. I think he wants to go back into the private sector. That's my guess at this point. You never know.
Markey will be coming up, what, in 4 years or 2 years?
No, in 2 years, in 2020.
2020.
He's got a problem. Seth Moulton was probably the congressman from the 6th District out in the North Shore. Everybody thinks pretty much that he will try to take Markey on in the Democratic primary.
Do you think that Seth Moulton, right, will be Speaker of the House or could be Speaker of the House?
No, I think he's too much of an outsider. He likes to throw the bombs. He's not an inside player. I think he wants to be the U.S. Senator, and I think he sees his path that way is through taking Markey out in the primary in 2020. Ed Markey is an older person.
Right.
He's the younger generation.
Right.
Markey's going to have a real problem on his hands. He's very underestimated, Markey. He works very hard. He's very knowledgeable.
He lives in Maryland.
What?
He lives in Maryland.
He lives in Maryland. But he knows more about a lot of subjects.
Yeah, he's very knowledgeable.
He's very, very studious about taking on issues in Washington. But that doesn't win you a lot of votes, and he doesn't get a lot of recognition for some of these dull, ponderous issues that he takes on.
He takes a lot of things on communications, doesn't he?
Communications, technology. He'll bore you to death with it, but you also come away very impressed with the amount of work that he does do. Mm-hmm. That doesn't lend to a lot of deep political roots here, and Moulton has a lot of following in that whole new generational attitude that Ayanna Pressley beat Capuano with.
That was a big surprise, wasn't
it? In the end, no. You could see that coming even from the beginning. That was a real handful.
Oh, I see.
Because she's a very good campaigner.
Yeah,
right. Bill Galvin faced the same thing, and Galvin was able to easily hold off a younger City Councilor, Josh Zakem.
We had him on the show here.
Yeah, but he didn't quite have the pizzazz that Ayanna have.
Well, somebody told me that if he didn't vote for 12 times or whatever the amount was, how could I vote for him?
Yeah, I know. Galvin was very effective, and Galvin's a very effective Secretary of State. He's not the friendliest and most backslapping politician. He's a very serious guy at his work, and he doesn't take fools lightly. And he makes, but he's respected for what he's done.
Interesting. So, what do you think of Elizabeth Warren as a senator and as a possible candidate? And you know what I tell people in regards to Massachusetts? Every senator historically, all the way back to the beginning, has been paid presidential timber from the state. And no matter whether it's Kerry or Dukakis or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Dukakis wasn't a senator.
Well, but figure it this way, that in 2020, we have John Kerry's even sniffing around.
Right.
Deval Patrick is taking a
don't believe that he's not thinking about running again.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
He's sniffing around. This is Massachusetts is going to produce John Kerry, Deval Patrick, Elizabeth Warren. Even Seth Moulton is, done some, stuff looking at this idea. And there is anybody else? It's amazing. We do produce presidential candidates. We don't produce presidents.
Anybody on the Republican side do you think might run for senator down the road?
There's not a heavy. A lot of criticism within the Republican ranks about Charlie Baker. This time,
yeah, I know.
He's not built up the Republican Party. He took control of the state party early on. He raised $1 million of dark money, and I had a big issue with him over that, to pay for state committee races back in 2016. A bare majority of state committee members, and he drove the conservatives off into the dark corners of the party. but he's this year in 2018, when he had a slate of candidates, he did nothing to promote a strong slate. All the Democrats won handily, 70% of the vote. Galvin got, and Deb Goldberg, the state treasurer, and others. Mara Healy. Yeah. There was not a serious candidate out there on the Republican side, or did he do anything on the legislative side. It was all about Charlie getting reelected, and he did not. He walked away from the party pretty much once he got the nomination, and it was
Are you saying he walked away from the party once he got elected 4 years ago? Or
no, he took control of the party,
I see.
And the party was completely for him. The staff there was working for his reelection.
Right.
All along. They had nothing, they didn't build up a field of legislative candidates. They did not build up potential congressional candidates. There was only one serious congressional candidate, and that was here, Rick Green, and he got trounced, and they did nothing to help Rick Green.
The criticism about Green, from what I understand, after he got elected in the primary, he wasn't seen around that much.
It was kind of weird, wasn't it?
That's what the...
Nor did he spend a whole lot of money of his own money into this thing. I mean, he thought, this guy's a multimillionaire. That was the impression. Mm-hmm. He didn't spend just over $100,000 of his own money. It wasn't a heavy buy. I didn't see him on the television much at all.
Right.
Maybe he just knew there just wasn't a chance. I thought he could have given her a good run in some ways, but I think once Lori won it, particularly with the Lowell base, it was very hard for him to crack that Merrimack Valley base.
That's right, and that was powerful. I mean, you saw Marty Meehan supporting her. She was on chief of staff of Marty Meehan's. And he was there. Do you know Marty Meehan?
I know Marty Meehan. He was. I knew his father, Buster Meehan.
Oh, no kidding.
Martin Sr.
Oh, that's right. He worked at the Lowell.
He was the chief compositor, and he'd come out and look at me and over the desk there, and after setting my stories, he said, "Kid, where'd you learn to spell? What college you go to?" He was he looked like Archie Bunker. And Marty, as a young kid, used to cut copy, as I say, off the machines on the weekends and snoop through my desk and try to find out who I was talking to. And
oh, no kidding.
Oh, yeah, I always tell him that. So I've known Marty for many years. And he, in fact, so well that I don't write about him.
What did you think of him becoming chancellor of the University of Massachusetts Lowell, and what he's done for the?
He's done it. I have to say, from all and I'm not here in Lowell to really watch it up front. Right. But by all accounts, he's done an incredible job of building up UMass Lowell. It's become the real anchor for this city. And it's that city. We're in Chelmsford, right?
Yeah.
I marvel at it. There's somebody who, as my first beat, was to cover Lowell State College and Lowell Technological Institute, two separate entities, campuses that became the University of Lowell, Massachusetts Lowell, and they were just very low-grade institutions essentially,
right?
And they have been built up, and Marty was really the rocket that took them to a whole new level.
Well, they were so down that the only way to go was up.
But he knew he built the dormitories, he built the buildings, built the infrastructure.
Right.
He got research money. He built a faculty, and he got rid of deadwood, and he really made that place sparkle and really vibrant. And I think that's a lot of credit for him. And now he's the president, and God help him there, because you got 5 of these campuses that you don't have that much power over them. And
yeah, I know.
You take all the blame.
You mentioned dark money, and question 2 was voted in. Question 2 was about limited influence of dark money, more or less. We're talking about Citizens United that took place in 2010, I think.
10,
5
Supreme
to 4.
Court. Supreme Court.
What do you think of that decision?
Absolutely outrageous. I mean, going back to Teddy Roosevelt's day, I mean, we've been banning corporations.
Right.
And for a decision to come out to say that corporations have First Amendment rights, a corporation
and
has
their
a First
people.
Amendment right,
Yeah.
and their people. No, people there can give, the CEO can give, but we should know what they're giving.
That's correct.
And they should be limited to what they can give. We all should be limited, and there should be limitations. And we should not have these entities that, hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars for the real rich are really pouring in on both sides.
And we don't know where it's coming from.
Yeah, the old idea of follow the money. And it's been very frustrating. And the Democrats use it. Charlie Baker's used it to great advantage in Massachusetts. I just mentioned a state committee race that he would run and take over the party. You don't, under law, when you run for state committee, it's an election in every presidential primary. But if I ran for state committee, I don't tell you where I got my donation. It never was much of an issue. No one ever spent much more than $1,000 if they spent that.
Right.
He raised $1 million from secret sources. The governor of the Commonwealth,
governor
of the Commonwealth, went out and hit up people who had interest before him to take for partisan purposes.
What bothers me about this not reporting where the money's coming from, it could come from Canada, it could come from China, it could come from the United Kingdom.
Yep.
I mean, we don't know where it's coming from.
It could be
and everything
Russian money.
It could be Russian money. But the thing is, we don't know where it's coming from, but we're okay with it. Or some people are okay with it. Yeah. I don't understand that.
Or for the very
democracy.
Very special interests that have business before the governor. And there he is getting a $50,000 contribution from them. He also raised money through the Republican Governors Association. Like Powell Patrick did this too, but big corporation, Vertex, other entities, major, John Fish, the contract, they give $200,000 to the RGA each year. That money is then funneled back into help Charlie
What about
Baker.
Casinos in regards to giving money? I mean...
Yeah, well, they're not supposed to, but they do, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it just has to be. I mean, to me, real quick, because we have another 2 minutes to go.
Okay.
I've been against an electoral college because I don't think this is a democracy. Like in other countries, plurality wins the election. In this country, it's electoral college, and I know I'm going against the grain, but I just don't like it. It's not because Mr. Trump got in, President Trump got in. That's not the reason. I've always been against electoral college.
Well, it's a good political science debate. I mean, we are just not one country. We're a federation, and in a sense, we're a federation of states.
Right.
And so the idea is to allow states to have that kind of influence. And there are arguments, I think, on both sides of it. If you didn't have the electoral college, all the candidates would spend their time in California and New York.
Right. And there'd be a lot of money going to the TV networks.
And this way, it breaks it up a little. And now, I don't know. I don't know which is better. And it's a great debate, and I don't know what I would feel about it.
Oh, yeah, because, I mean, they write off Massachusetts. They don't even come to Massachusetts.
No, they don't go
the only time they come to Massachusetts when they want money.
Yeah, exactly. We, per capita, are the biggest political donors. Used to be in the Clinton days. I don't know if that still is.
Okay.
That's where the money was coming from.
Right.
Per capita speaking.
So I would say Arkansas and Massachusetts were during the Clinton days.
Yeah.
Is that
Arkansas doesn't have that much money.
Yeah, I know, but I mean...
I've been there, I know it. A little.
Oh, you covered a lot of campaigns, right? I mean...
Oh, yeah. I don't do national. I've covered the state. I've covered all the great state campaigns.
Okay.
The Kerry Weld race for Senate.
Right.
Silber Weld, all those great races, Val Patrick against Charlie Baker, all those, Ted Kennedy and Romney, those are classic.